It started with a single text message, then another, then a flood. Your flight is cancelled. On a crisp December morning in 2025, over 1,000 flights across India vanished from the departure boards. Imagine the chaos. Business meetings in Mumbai, gone. Family reunions in Kolkata, postponed. Honeymoons in Goa, over before they began. The nation that had learned to fly with speed and ambition was suddenly grounded. Airports turned into sprawling waiting rooms of frustration. Engines of progress fell silent, replaced by the murmur of angry, stranded passengers. This wasn't a storm. This wasn't a strike. This was a crisis created by one airline, IndiGo. India's biggest, most reliable airline had hit a wall. Small warning signs were easy to dismiss. For days, cancellations had been creeping up. A few dozen here, 100 there. Travelers shrugged it off as routine operational hiccups. Then the system buckled. Cancellations leapt. In 24 hours, the number soared past 1,000. Unprecedented. A logistical heart attack for a country dependent on IndiGo. The airline known for on-time performance became the source of nationwide paralysis. So, what happened? What could grind such a well-oiled machine to a halt? It wasn't a software glitch. It wasn't a security threat. It wasn't a fleet-wide technical issue. The culprit was more fundamental. New rules for pilots. The DGCA mandated stricter pilot flight duty time limitations, FDTL. Pilots were required to get more rest between flights, a safety move to combat fatigue and enhance air safety. The problem, IndiGo apparently hadn't rostered enough pilots for the tighter rules. The irony was brutal. Safety rules meant to protect people created chaos on the ground. Cancellations became a mathematical certainty. The story of the Great Grounding didn't happen overnight. It was a slow-motion collision between regulation and reality. The journey began months earlier, when the DGCA announced updated FDTL rules. The goal was to align India with global pilot rest standards, reduce risks associated with fatigue. The new rules increased weekly rest for pilots. They curtailed the number of night landings. For months, the rules were just a document. Airlines were given a deadline to comply. They got a grace period to adjust. Crew scheduling had to change. Hiring processes had to accelerate. As the implementation date neared, the first tremors were felt. IndiGo flagged concerns. Other airlines did too. The new rules officially kicked in. Graphic timeline, DGCA announced rules. Rules implemented. Cancellations spike. DGCA relaxes rules. For the first few days, the impact was muted. Then cancellations spiked. What started as a trickle became a stream, then a torrent. IndiGo's network depended on quick turnarounds and high aircraft utilization. It began to fray at the edges, then unravel completely, and the system broke. Public outcry was immediate and immense. News channels broadcast live from jammed terminals. Social media filled with stories. Stranded students, missed job interviews, families stuck in limbo. Pressure on government and regulator became unbearable. The DGCA faced a painful dilemma. On one hand, uphold safety and stick to rules. Backing down could compromise safety. On the other, letting the largest airline stay crippled hurt the economy and people. Faced with this, the regulator blinked. Days into the crisis, DGCA announced a temporary, calibrated relaxation. It was a pragmatic retreat. Flexibility on nighttime operations. Adjusted rest requirements gave IndiGo breathing room. Cancellations eased and schedules began to normalize. But uncomfortable questions remained. So why did one airline's rostering problem become a national emergency? The answer: market share. By late 2025, IndiGo held over 60% of the domestic market. For every 10 flyers, more than 6 were on an IndiGo plane. This isn't just leadership, it's dominance. With thousands of daily flights connecting major metros and small towns, IndiGo became the network stitching modern India together. That enormous scale put it squarely in the too big to fail category. When IndiGo grounded a third of its fleet, the entire aviation sector caught a cold. No other airline could absorb thousands of stranded passengers. The system had lost its redundancy. Air travel is essential infrastructure. When flights stop, commerce slows. The crisis sent ripples through the economy. The DGCA had to intervene, not just to save one company, but to save the system. IndiGo's massive size wasn't the result of a grand plan. It grew so large primarily by being the last one standing. The story of Indian aviation is a graveyard of ambition, littered with the ghosts of airlines that took off with great fanfare, only to come crashing down. Think of the names: Kingfisher Airlines, Jet Airways, and more recently, Go First. Each time a competitor fell, IndiGo was there to pick up the vacant routes, airport slots, and passengers. Its strategy was brutally simple: maintain a single fleet type, keep costs ruthlessly low, and ensure on-time performance. While these airlines failed, the government sold Air India back to the Tata Group, creating a new formidable competitor. But even the combined might of the Tata airline empire is still significantly smaller than IndiGo. The market has effectively become a duopoly, but one where a single player is still vastly larger than the other. Why is the Indian aviation market so difficult? It's a brutal, high-cost, low-fare trap. Operational costs are among the world's highest, while customers are among the most price-sensitive. The biggest costs are fuel and the US dollar. Heavy taxes make jet fuel pricier than in hubs like Delhi. And since most costs, from aircraft leases to spare parts, are priced in dollars, a weak rupee can wipe out profits. On the demand side, a booming middle class is eager to fly, but they are extremely price-sensitive. This creates ferocious fare wars, forcing airlines to offer deep discounts just to fill seats. This race to the bottom makes it impossible to build cash reserves for shocks like a spike in fuel prices or a pandemic. Only carriers with deep pockets and extreme cost controls can survive. The challenges facing Indian aviation aren't all homegrown. The industry operates within a rigid global structure that imposes its own powerful limits. The first and most significant constraint is the supply of aircraft. The commercial aviation world is dominated by a powerful duopoly: Airbus from Europe, Boeing from the United States. These two giants manufacture the vast majority of the world's passenger jets. If an airline wants to grow, it has to get in line. Right now, that line is incredibly long. Both manufacturers have order backlogs stretching for years. A new airline wanting 100 planes simply couldn't get them quickly. It would wait years or scramble for used aircraft on the tight leasing market. IndiGo has placed massive forward-looking orders and secured its delivery pipeline for years. That foresight gives it a massive advantage. Another structural limit is India's ownership laws. Policy mandates substantial ownership and effective control remain in Indian hands. Foreign entities can own up to 49%, but cannot take a controlling stake. The rule keeps national airline networks under domestic control, but it also deters major global airline groups from fully owned investment. Deep-pocketed foreign airlines could bring capital, experience, and aircraft access, yet the ownership cap makes India less attractive than markets allowing full control. Combined with the aircraft bottleneck, this creates conditions for a market dominated by a few local champions. It's a natural squeeze. The Great IndiGo grounding was a national stress test. The results: our aviation system is both a spectacular success and dangerously fragile. The primary lesson: market concentration creates systemic risk. When one airline carries over 60% of traffic, its internal problems become national crises. IndiGo's success has made it a single point of failure. The path forward requires cultivating a more competitive landscape, not by penalizing success, but by creating an environment where more airlines can thrive. This means rationalizing taxes, strengthening the regulator with realistic implementation timelines, and inviting stable investment. India's aspirations are taking flight. It needs a sky with more than one set of wings.